Hello, my name is Jimmy and this is the 2022 Mazda CX-5. Mazda just introduced their CX-50, which is basically competing with this. But this CX-5 is still Mazda's bread and butter. It's one of the most popular vehicles that they have. So let's take a look at it at this brand new 2022 model and see what the differences are and why this is still relevant. For 2022, Mazda did a few things. They've updated the outside of the vehicle, they made the all-wheel drive standard, there's a different drive mode selector rather than just a regular sport mode, and they revised the suspension a little bit. So let's take a look at it and see exactly if the 2022 model is worth the upgrade or even your consideration. In terms of the front end, they kind of revised it to fit in with the regular Mazda lineup. You got narrower front headlights, a different grille, and elimination of the front fog lights. It's still very Mazda. You get that traditional look here, and I think it's a great looking front end. On the side here, because this is the signature model here in Canada, well, there's no more black plastic. The body cladding is all body colored. It actually updates the look quite a bit, and I think it's a little bit more sophisticated than the previous generation. Here in Canada, you can get a sport model, which is one tier lower, and that comes with black body cladding, but it's glossy black, so it's a little bit more sporty. I do like these 19-inch wheels. They look really nice, and I mean, the overall side profile is exactly the same as CX-5 always been. It's pretty standard here. Around back are these updated taillights. They look great and they really match the headlights that's in front. On the lower bumper, we get dual exhaust tips. I mean, overall, it's still a really good looking machine. Yes, it's a little dated now, but I think with the updated styling bits, it fits right into the Mazda family. Inside the trunk, well, we get 30.9 cubic feet, which definitely is on the smaller size. However, like my best friend, he has a CX-5 and he's been using it since 2016, I believe, 2017, maybe a 2016 and a half. But he's been using that as his daily vehicle. He has one child and there's no problems fitting everything that he needs, all the construction equipment as well as golfing stuff he has in that car. So it fits a lot. Something that I like a lot is this tonneau cover. You can still have it attached with the tailgate open, so it's out of your way. And I mean, it rolls out. It's just a really smart and innovative way to have this tonneau cover. The rear seats, they fold down 40, 20, 40. So you can fold down the middle one if you like with just a latch on the side here. Unfortunately, I have a child seat in there, so oh, still works. So you can pass through all your longer items, skis, lumber, whatever. And I mean, it's actually a really practical use of this space. If you do want something a little bit bigger and you want to stick with the brand, the CX-50 does have, well, a bigger trunk size. But let's go through those rear seats. All right, the rear seats of the CX-5. As you can see, I'm 5'11", and there's plenty of headroom, there's plenty of legroom, knee room, and all that good stuff. My feet goes underneath the front seat so I can really stretch out. The doors, they open 90 degrees or almost 90 for easier to get in as well as out of the vehicle. It's not too bad in here. You get some ventilation, but the USB ports as well as the heated seat button, well, that's the last place you're gonna find them. It's in the center armrest right in here. You got your heated seat button, and then the USBs is just within the armrest itself. So they're a little bit tough to get to. But if you wanna get a little bit more comfortable, well, the seat itself, it reclines just a little bit more so you can, well, be a little bit more comfortable. But it's no CX-9. However, if you are planning to put child seats like I have here, this is a Kleck Fünf, and well, it absolutely fits into this cabin. An infant seat like this Kleck Ling fits in on the driver's side with no issues, and this Fünf here, as you can see, is on the passenger side, and there's still plenty of space. I currently have this on recline number 2, which means it's a little bit more upright, allowing for more space for the front occupant. As you can see, I'm 5'11", and well, I still fit in front of this Fünf. But I think that's really it about everything that I can talk about back here. Let's go to these front seats. All right, the cabin of the CX-5. First thing I gotta say is, I mean, the rear seats are exactly the same, but these, they're just so comfortable. This is the Napa leather that's on the signature model, so they're just softer, they're more supple, and this coffee brown, I think it looks really, really good compared to just black that you normally would get. The seats are heated and cooled, so it's very, very comfortable. The only thing is I just don't get enough thigh support. So, I mean, I'm sitting here, it's fine, but I wish it just had a little bit more. Kind of like BMWs where you have that extendable thigh cushion. That's something that I would like to see here. In front of me is your good old Mazda steering wheel. This is the kind of the older one compared to the ones that you find in like the Mazda 3, the CX-30, the MX-30, but it still works. It just doesn't look as cool, but all the buttons are still there. You get flappy paddles on the back. Behind the wheel, you get this partial digital and analog cluster. It works great. It looks good. It shows you everything you need, but nothing more. It's not one of those full fancy digital clusters that shows you everything in the world, but I think that's completely fine. Because as you're driving, the last thing you really want to do is like dive into a bunch of different menus within your cluster. That's just distracted driving. Heads-up display is exactly the same like most Mazdas. You get the bare necessities, but it's simple. It's just a good heads-up display. Speed limit. I love the part that it shows you if there's anyone in your blind spot. That's one of the best things about this heads-up display. And then the infotainment. Well, this is the same one that was updated for the 2021.5 here in Canada, or just the 2021 model in the US. It's the widescreen. It's the same one that's in the Mazda 3, the CX-30, the MX-30. It works really, really well. There's Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, but you do have to plug it in. Unfortunately, there's no wireless option, but I think that's fine. You have a wireless charger if you want to just, charge your device. At least it gives you that option. And that's really it. The rest of the interior, it's very similar to the old CX-5. There hasn't been too many changes here, but you still get really premium materials up top, soft touch, squishy materials. There's really nice wood on the side that I like. That's only available on the signature trim. Lower end models is a little different. But yeah, that's really it. Let's go for a drive and see how it is on the road, because they did update the all-wheel drive system as well as the suspension. So let's take a look. All right, it's another day, but let's go for a drive in the CX-5. So underneath the hood, because this is the top signature trim, you have the turbo motor. 256 horsepower, 320 pound-feet of torque. That's, well, actually a little bit more power than the previous years. Honestly, you won't feel it. However, most people will be putting 87 in this. That's 226 or 227 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. More than sufficient. Mazda Canada themselves said that, well, if you don't drive the vehicle above 4,000 RPM, you're not going to have any difference whatsoever. The peak torque and the peak horsepower, it's only above that certain range. So save yourself a little bit of money, get 87, and you'll be completely fine. In terms of the ride, well, they did tune the suspension a little bit in this. However, honestly, I can't tell the difference. I'll have to drive a 2021 model and a 2022 back-to-back to really feel those differences. On the road here, it feels like all Mazda should. It's comfortable, it's a little firm, it's a little sporty, but it's good all around. The CX-5, you get independent rear suspension. It's a multi-link setup that's very different to the CX-30, Mazda 3, as well as the CX-50 that's out. But Mazda has tuned that trailing arm suspension that's in that to be so good, you don't really notice a difference with the more complicated setup that we have here. Is it better? I mean, on paper, it should be, but in reality, I don't think anyone's going to be able to feel a difference. They also changed the all-wheel drive system a little bit. I mean, as you can see, it's nice and sunny out today, so no real uses of that all-wheel drive system. The sport mode is a little bit different as well, and there's a new off-road mode. If the off-road mode is the same as the CX-50, it could be quite cool because it acts like, well, a locking center diff to push the power other way. So when one wheel starts slipping, you don't really have to worry. It's able to send that engine power wherever it needs to keep accelerating and push itself forward. I mean, the best thing about it, I think, is, well, the animation on the cluster. This is basically a first for Mazda to have any sort of animation like that, because generally on the older Mazda products, when you hit sport mode, all that comes up is a word sport in red, and it's like the smallest font on the bottom of the cluster. Now it changes that cluster a little bit, and that's probably the most, well, the biggest difference, really, that anyone can see. Overall, the CX-5 is just as good as it's always been. It's a very, well, compelling vehicle in its class. It's definitely not the largest, but the best thing about it is just how it drives. It feels like a Mazda should. It's just connected. It kind of feels like a BMW. And you're not paying BMW money in this. As equipped here, it's 45,000 Canadian dollars. Sure, it's not pennies. I mean, you can get cheaper options. You can get more fuel efficient options as well. But if you're buying a Mazda product, you're not too compelled to, well, think about those numbers. If you're really thinking about fuel efficiency, you're most likely getting a Toyota hybrid anyway. Toyota hybrid is fine, but it just doesn't drive like this. It doesn't have that connected feel. I mean, it can easily be half of what this vehicle does in terms of just the fuel consumption, but I don't think anyone cares. If you're looking to buy a Mazda, you want this feel, you want this interior, you want this, well, kind of package overall. And the CX-5 is still a very, very good package, even though it's a little bit older for, today's standards. Sure, the CX-50 might be a little bit bigger, it might have a panoramic sunroof, but I still think the CX-5, well, it's a little cheaper, it's readily available. I still think it's a great buy. In any case, thank you so much for watching this video. Like the video if you do, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.